Welcome to the Positively Joyful Productivity Show, where joy isn't a reward for productivity, it's the secret ingredient. I'm your host, Nicole Louise, coach, wife, and dog mom. This is a no-kid zone by design, created for women who are child-free, childless, or an empty nester embracing your next chapter. You all belong here. Each week, you'll hear inspiring stories from women around the world and learn tools, mindset shifts, and practical strategies for living a joyful life. You'll also discover the science behind why focusing on joy fuels focus, motivation, and lasting productivity. Let's get inspired, get organized, and create a life full of freedom, focus, and joy. All right, so today on the podcast, I have Jenny Brown, owner of Digital Garden Marketing, and she went from starting out in the very low-tech era, as I did myself, moving to using more tech to help get herself organized and sort of get everything under control. So Jenny, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Thank you. Nice for having me. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, um, say that you're a millennial without saying it, without popping your age. That's how we started. We didn't have smartphones and other devices that we were able to drag around like these days. So yeah, we started off with Excel sheets and long Word documents, but we didn't
Definitely.
print them out because it was too much to carry around. So basically, everything was up in here, in your mind, in your brain, and in your head. And yeah, that's basically how it got started. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jenny, you're in the entertainment industry, vastly different from what I'm doing, which is so cool. And so you started out as a project manager for live events and things like concerts. And then
Mhm.
you decided to start your own business as a freelance tour manager slash project manager and running live shows. Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah,
And
like that.
yeah, so I imagine at that point you had tons of stuff going on, and with the low tech era that we were in, you must have been feeling pretty overwhelmed.
Yes. So yes, I really started in the early 2000s, going from internship, jumping into my first part-time job, full-time job later on. And oh yeah, having my college studies on the side because my dad was like, hey, I like that you're working, but that life is not it. You need to learn something properly. So I did that on the side because, making money was more interesting back then. Yeah, beginning of the 20 years. So I was probably like 21. Yeah, 21 when I started working there. So yeah, it was a really interesting era. Everything was still very analog, from buying tickets. You went to the box office and bought tickets. You really had a ticket in your hand with all these cool things on it to make sure that nobody can copy these tickets. And when I started, we had these tickets, and we already seen that there were systems in place to start selling tickets online. So, as an intern, I was told, hey, why don't you go to the venues we have here locally and map out the seats and create a seat plan. So we have a floor plan and we can upload it to the ticket system and we can start selling tickets online. So I was part of that crew that went into every venue, sat at every seat, checked, hey, what category seat could this be? Is that a good view, a bad view, or a mid-size section? All these kind of things. So that's where I started my career, and it was very interesting because I never thought about in the background like how do they actually figure this out. But yeah, that's how it got started. And a few years later, I decided to do this on my own. Still, I think the first iPhone literally just came out. I think it was 2007, something like that.
Sounds about
And
right.
I had a few apps on there, not comparable to the amount of apps you have on your phones now. Like we had maybe 2 or 3 apps on it. I think like something like iTunes and maybe your iPod still or something like that.
Hmm.
And I think Facebook was like one of the first apps I had on my phone. And yeah, we still were rocking word sheets, Excel sheets. And since I was traveling a lot, yeah, you had sheets, but you're in a bus, you're in a hotel, you on a tour, bus or whatever, in car, taxi, train, whatever you got going on. So you lose sheets. It's just you're going through all these loose sheets, and I was not organized back then, like having a folder and putting the stuff in a folder. So I was literally a hot mess on top of that. And I was losing stuff. So I was like, let me memorize the things my mom taught me back in the days. You need to memorize all these important phone numbers because, of course, there was no cell phone. So we were one of those children, key around the neck with
Oh
a
yeah.
chain, and you knew the phone numbers. So you had a phone booth, you were dialing these numbers with your little change.
Yep.
Kids these don't have no idea.
No, they don't.
They don't. So this is what we did, and I memorized stuff, and it went well. Project by project. If you had little things as an employee, it went well. It was good brain training as well. But once you get to the stage where you're self-employed, you have your own agency, you have multiple projects running at the same time. On top of that, also strategic stuff that you need to handle. That I was in my mid 20s. I was very, let's say, naive to, yeah, considered as like really important task. For me, it was important to make sure that the artist was there on time. Everything that they were required was there. The show was set up technically, everything was fine. The hotels were booked, and we were able to get from A to B. That was like my priority.
Mhm.
And everything else, my assistant in the background, she was recording stuff because I was on the move and we were driving and in between phone calls and whatnot. So she recorded our conversation, so she was able to keep her own checklist. So yeah, before Trello, ClickUp, Notion, and all these fun project management tools that we have now, that was that time. That's how we were working, and it was fun, but it paid it cost a toll for us, and we had to pay the price for it. And yeah, we learned a lot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I just have this image in my head of you like riding, from tour to tour and you've got all these papers flying around and your sister's recording things and like I'm just
Yeah,
feeling overwhelmed listening to that. Like, oh my gosh. However, I grew up in that era too, and so I remember being, in those situations where it's like, well, we didn't have cell phones and there were no apps. You're absolutely right. And it's just so fun to kind of think back on like how far we've come, and then how did we
yeah,
do all the things we did before? So, oh, just crazy stuff. So during this time, you and
yeah.
I chatted before, and you mentioned that so in all of this kind of like chaotic environment, you had to ask
Mhm.
yourself some pretty tough questions and some uncomfortable questions. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious, what did you ask yourself, and then how did that ultimately help you?
Yeah, so I remember I moved from my hometown to another bigger city in Germany, and I had my little tiny apartment, and I was sitting on the floor, and I was surrounded by invoices, show posters, and my coffee and or tea or whatever, and I was really tired physically but also mentally, and I had to ask myself, like, am I building a business, or am I just running around like a headless chicken? Like, are you
Mhm.
building something sustainable, or are you just being busy running around? So, and another one was like, why do I feel like super successful on stage, even though I wasn't on stage, but I felt successful on stage presenting and doing, but I was feeling like I was a failure behind the scenes because things behind the scenes started crumbling down. And these questions, they cracked something open in me, and they forced me to confront myself with the truth that I never built a real business structure, and I was running on hustle and heart, but without a strategy, and I was burning out. I was literally burning out. Like, that was like close before my first burnout. I was really burned out. So those were like really questions that I had to ask myself, and I had to answer these questions. And my take out of this whole situation that I went through is definitely a lesson learned. I don't consider it as a failure, but I consider things that maybe don't run as smooth as a lesson learned, because you make this mistake once, you learn from it, and you won't do it again.
Mhm.
And that's how you have to pick yourself up. And sometimes clarity really starts with the courage to ask yourself questions you've been avoiding. And that's where the real transformation actually starts. So everything that you've been trying to avoid, and you know these questions deep inside of you, if you're like, man, let me like change my mind, do something else, and try to distract yourself. But you know exactly what's going on, and you need to sit down and maybe write these questions down and really read them out loud to yourself. Like, go in front of the mirror and ask yourself this question, like, hey, friend, what's going on? Do you have an answer to that? And I really had to reflect, deep dive, and I was everything was working well in the outside. So I was always the friend that helped. I was always that person that was there for others, and that strong person in the background. And everybody considered, oh, she got it all together. Well, little did they know that I didn't have it all together. I was good in playing a role, acting, making sure the curtains were not closed. Everything was la di da di do da day. But once everything shut down, you come to your little home with your dog and stuff. It wasn't. And yeah, that's really hard to deal with, especially as a young female in a predominantly men-based industry. I was surrounded by majority men, strong men, very masculine as well. And we're already questioning, why are these females trying to do this kind of stuff? I was here in Germany, I was one out of two females who ran their own agency to do these kind of things. So me and her, we instantly connected, and she had her stuff going on, I had my stuff going on. And at the beginning we didn't even talk about these, like to these days you can like talk about certain situations that were uncomfortable. Back then you couldn't open up. It was considered you were weak,
Mhm.
so you couldn't show that. And I had a handful of friends that I can call friends, and I have to this day. And at some point when I had my burnout, they were like, hey girl, what's going on? Everybody thinks you got it all together. Like, you, out of everyone. I'm like, yeah, I do not have it all together. And that was, I remember to this day, that was in my living room. We were sitting there, three girls, crying like babies because they didn't see what happened. I didn't open up to them. And they were like, why are you not talking to us? We are your friends. Like, we're here together in it. I've been your VA for how many years? You're not talking to me. Like, what's going on? So we had to clean that mess up. It was a mess. Um, and we had to really dig deep. And I had to really take a step back. Also from the business, I had shut the business down. I took a step back, and I was still doing a few freelance things, and for friends and whatnot. Of course, to stay afloat. I mean, you can't live off of love and whatnot. That's not going to work. You need to make money at some point.
Mhm.
And yeah, then I was had a little bit more connection with my other friend who was also in working with corporates, a strategist, and she was very busy too. So once we meet, it was like we haven't. It's not like we haven't seen each other in years, but it was like that, and we just instantly took off from where we left. And she was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I just went straight to her, like, "Hey, listen, this happened. I cannot tell you how, why, and whatnot. I don't know what I did wrong." And I really thought to myself, like, oh man, she's gonna think I'm really a hot mess,
Mhm.
which I was. But she said, basically, your ideas are very powerful. You just need a container to hold everything together. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, your ideas are powerful. You have very good ideas. You just need to organize it, put them into a container, and then release it bit by bit. And I did not understand at first. And she set me down. Like, she took a week off. She came to my apartment. She moved in basically. And she
Wow.
sat down and she was showing me really the nitty-gritty stuff. So from a business perspective, you're not an employee in your own business. That's the
Hmm.
first time I heard that, or
Yeah.
James said that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yep." She's like, you are basically being busy with stuff that you shouldn't be dealing with. If you create this kind of business and you have this kind of money going in and out, you should be able to hire people to do this for you.
Hmm.
And you should focus on things that are bringing you 80% of your income. And she was right. So we were sitting down and she was showing me different frameworks like OKR, objectives and key results, quarterly planning, simple project tracking systems. We sat down and mapped out my services, my audience, and most importantly, my time, because I was still like recovering, and I didn't really go to a doctor because, of course, I didn't want to show my weakness.
Right.
So I had to deal with this burnout on my own, and I had really like the people that were around me, the few people that stayed and were around me, were really like they saved my life for real. Like they went grocery shopping, they pulled me off the couch, got me out the bed, and they were like switching up every day. Somebody else was there, they had a key, so I didn't even have to go open the door. They had a key. They came in, took care of me, took care of
Hmm.
my dog, and cooked food and just like gave me like a task of a day that I had to, do, go out, fresh air. One of them booked us a trip to somewhere, and she's like, hey, let's go out for 4 days and different scenery. You don't have to worry about work. Bills are paid. Don't worry about, financial stuff. That really happened. And I'm very, very grateful to this day for having such people in my corner, because usually when things go down south, we say, you see who's really there, and most of the time you really don't have nobody there. Maybe
Hmm.
your family are
Right.
blessed enough. So that was, for me, it was also important to show them when I got back up that you believe in me this way, you believe I can pull it off again, basically, then I need to believe in myself that I can do that.
Hmm.
And that was, for me, a lot of motivation, because of course, you hear people talk, there's gossip going on, it's an industry. And they were
Hmm.
like, where's she at? We don't see, hear nothing from her no more. And what happened? And yeah, I pulled myself out. I was like, I have this mentality that's something I got inherited from my mom. If people tell you you can't do certain things, you show them different.
Yeah.
You don't make a lot of noise, you just do it.
Hmm.
And the noise comes from your actions. And that's something my mom had taught me. She said, you don't speak about it, you just sit down and you do your job, you do the work, and let the work speak for itself. She said, you don't need to talk back to anyone. That's when Facebook started, evolving, and, comment section, people posting stuff and all that. My mom was like, do not pay attention.
Hmm.
Do what you need to do. You have your plan, you have a strategy. Get your
Yeah.
butt back up.
That is
And
such
that's what I had.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
And
such
that's really
powerful
what I had
language.
to do. Yeah. I had to like really focus and calm down and keep myself together, keep my surrounding, my environment pure, clean, and calm,
Hmm.
peaceful, where I was able to regain strength from. That was very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, a few things I wanted to just pull out and t touch on.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see here. Yeah, you felt like you were just running around. One
Mhm.
thing, this is kind of off topic, but I think it's so important to touch on is the fact that you are a woman working in a male-dominated field. And I think
Mhm.
that that's such a common thread. And we handle things so differently than men. And back, when we were starting out, mental health was not part of the conversation. Burnout, I don't think that word existed back then.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Yeah.
Definitely not. burnout was not a word for it. I seen left and right people with strokes, they were in their mid 40s. I was in my mid and 20s when all this happened. So I seen people left and right having strokes, especially people that I work with in the industry, people just falling out, heart attacks and stuff like that. But nobody ever discussed it or talked about it. It was something that came with that was a price you pay.
Hmm.
But for me, I was, yeah, my mom had passed shortly after that. So for me, she passed with 51 years. She was 51. And I was like, yeah, I know my mom had two strokes in her lifetime. I don't want to have that issue. I don't want to go through that. I actually want to have children. I want to be married.
Hmm.
And I don't want to be the person that needs medical assistance and that kind of because I worked myself sick. I
Yeah.
didn't want that. So for me, the work was always something that had to connect with fun, with something that I do with passion. And when my mom asked me, like back when I was younger with school, like, hey, what do you want to do? I was the first kid that went to college out of my entire family. Not because I was the first kid who had the reasons to do it. I really wanted to do it because I had how you call it, like a consultation
Hmm.
and go to a certain grade in Germany. At some point, they will ask you, do you want to continue school, college, higher school, or do you want to stop and learn a profession? That could be working in an administrative work, and then you work on a job, and you have school twice a week to learn it. And then you get your exams, you have your associate's degree. And everything that I was interested in doing came up requirements you need a higher degree. So the lady tried to convince me that my associate's degree would have been enough. But I was like, but that's not what I want. I wanted to go this route. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to already work in management and she didn't understand. And my mom was like, apparently to the lady, apparently you don't understand what my daughter is requesting.
Hmm.
And you must understand there's also, it was in the 90s.
Hmm.
My mom is a white lady. I'm a mixed kid. And while we were little, everything was cute and fine. When we got older, things got a little bit more controversial. Let me
Hmm.
put it that way. And people underestimated your abilities based on how you look. So they didn't think I would have that kind of educational talent in me to learn these things and to really pull it off and get a degree. And my mom would look at me, she said, I think we don't need this appointment anymore. We know what we're going to do. And
Hmm.
she just told me, come on, let's just go. Let's just leave. And my mom said, whatever you want to do, whatever you put your head into, you can do it. Don't let people like this. And it was important for me to actually experience this because it prepared me for especially this job and this industry. No matter what people think of you, the way they look at you and what they believe, that's their problem. That's not your problem. You know what you can do. You know how to open up a book and read. You can count. You know how to write. You know how to articulate yourself. And you already went to a higher school than what your teachers told you back in the day. So
Hmm.
here we are. Again, what do you want to do? And I told her I still want to do that. She said, well, let's go on. Let's go sign you up for the school.
Hmm.
And that's what we did. And that's how it went. And coming back to the time then in my mid-20s when I was running my business, it was the same thing. People were underestimating your abilities just as a female. Like,
Yeah.
what does a female expect to do in this industry with all these male? And you had one job there to do. And I was like, no, that's not me. That's not my job. I'm not
Hmm.
an assistant. I was an assistant for a very long time. And I was very grateful for the mentoring that I had with my old boss because he really took me by the hand. There was no job for event management back then when I started. These jobs did not exist. You were
Hmm.
pulled in as an intern, you maybe did school on the side. And what happened was you do the job, you learn on the job, and then after work time, the tax advisor comes in, the bookkeeper comes in, and then they sit down with you and they were like, so Missy, I'm going to teach you how to write contracts. I'm going to teach you how to do the tax exemptions for your artists that are foreign. All these things I had to learn with these people. And I'm grateful for it to this day because I seen that my boss seen something in me that other people didn't.
Mhm.
And he's like, this is somebody, she has potential, she understands. I was very naive to believe that I knew how to run this game, this business, because I thought just running these tours were fine. But, the whole business aspect and background, I didn't have. And that's how I fell on my nose. I was naive and maybe too bold at that time to think, hey, what I can do for him, I can do for myself. Let me just go ahead. And I seen how much money they made. I seen the profits. I was like, mm-mm. And I'm getting this little salary. I was like, the math is not mathing anymore to me. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was definitely a big, big learning curve right there. But I would not want to miss it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to miss it. I don't regret it. Like I absolutely don't. Because everything that I know now, what I learned then, I can use now for my business, for my life, for my kid. I can, teach them certain things that other people might not know that I know because I speak of experience, out of
Mhm.
experience, and I can teach them, and they already have, like, say, an advantage, if they want to pursue certain things. And I'm like, okay, it was for something. If it wasn't for me to become wealthy, then maybe my son will be wealthy because he can take the lesson learned from his mom and, move on with that. And
Yeah.
that's important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Such powerful thinking. And I just wanted to circle back to the questions that you had asked yourself.
Mhm.
How insightful of you to recognize that you even needed to ask yourself those questions. I think that so many times we just get lost in the shuffle and we're not even aware that we need to stop and be like, whoa, time out.
Yeah.
What am I doing? How do I organize myself? And then the fact that you had such an amazing support system, throughout all of all of that story that you just shared with us, from your mom to your friends and your coworkers and your boss, like it really having support from that, from community, from family, friends, whoever it is so important. So important.
It's so, yeah. And I know there are a lot of females, or let's say in general, people out there who are on their own. They don't have the support system. And I know it's hard at some point to face things yourself, to go through yourself. And I had a lot of people that I had to let go in that time as well. So I felt like I was alone at the
Mhm.
beginning too. So I kind of relate, and I can understand. It took me a while to actually see who my real friends were, where I could open up and speak to without having this vulnerable, this weakness stamp on you, where you were
Right.
considered, oh, she's weak, she cannot handle that, or so. And it
Mhm.
took a while. And my husband, back then, we were on and off dating because we were both focused on our business and careers. He actually started asking me the really first uncomfortable question. And I was super upset at him. Like, I was so upset at him. I was like, how dare you?
It's
And
so
he's
easy to
like,
get mad at them.
yes. I was like, how dare you ask me this?
Yes.
But I had to, like, he was like, no, this is absolutely no offense. But I need to ask you this because you need to ask yourself this. Like, you really need to ask yourself some really serious questions.
Mhm.
Like, I've been watching you, observing. He's very quiet, and he observes a lot. He analyzes a lot.
Mhm.
And a lot of times he won't say it because, happy wife, happy life.
Right.
But I do see when he has thoughts, and I'll be like, okay, listen, I'm not going to take offense, but I do want to know your thoughts.
Mhm.
And back then, I wasn't that mature yet. We're 10 years in marriage, so it
Right.
took us a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with
But
you there.
then, yes, it was difficult because it was uncomfortable. It
Mhm.
hurt at the beginning. You got offended and you thought you was all that and a bag of chips. And him, who had no idea of this industry, how could dare he could ask you something like that? Like, seriously, that's where I was. And I
Yeah.
had to really learn how to humble myself. Like, that was the biggest thing. And I have to say, my husband, he's a believer. And back then, I believed, but I wasn't saved, and I didn't put that into my life. Like, it's not the middle of my life. But for
Mhm.
him, it was.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of questions because he reads scripture, he read Bible, he has his pastor, had his pastor, and he went to him and asked these kind of questions like, "Hey, this is going on. How can I help her?" And he
Yeah.
was basically telling my husband, "Ask her some serious questions. It might be uncomfortable. You might get some heat." Because he remembers he's seen me once and he's like, "Yeah, you might get some heat from the sister, but if she is wise enough at this point, she will get an understanding and she will be grateful that you even considered starting this and coming to her like that." So,
Yeah.
man, I got married. So I forgave, but
Yes.
but it really something like it really opened up this Pandora's box of self-reflection. You need to learn how to humble yourself and also take criticism and feedback without being offended because it's constructive.
Right.
So there's feedback that is constructive. There's also feedback that's like, but you need to learn how to blend it out. If you cannot give me no constructive feedback, then for me it's not really feedback. Like give me a solution maybe, or give me an idea that you have, then I consider that, I work with that, and I probably circle back to you because it was a good idea, and I will tell you, hey, do you know how to do these things? Then I will pull you in and then we will sit down and you will teach me
Hmm.
because I don't know everything. I always enjoy having people around me that know more than me because I'm just like a sponge. I pick up and I learn.
Yes.
And having coaches around me and people that teach people how to, yeah, self growth is a big topic. And then also me finding my belief in Christ Jesus was a huge thing. It just grew over the years, and I believe the last 2 years where I really matured in. And I have to say, the Bible has really almost everything considered in there where you can ask yourself and you get an answer. And you just need to ask it in the right way,
Hmm.
and you get an answer. And just based on King Solomon in there, who was one of the wisest people because he asked for wisdom, one of the wealthiest people because he tried to help people with wisdom and not hurt them, and God rewarded that with wealthiness, with riches and whatnot. Those are things that I'm just coming to realization, and I'm reading that and I'm like, ah, like, woozah. Like I'm telling my husband, sometimes I'll be like, hey, did you read that? He gets these WhatsApp messages at his job. He's like, girl, I'm in a meeting right now. Can we discuss Jesus later on? I said, no, Jesus is important. We need to discuss it right now. I just had an epiphany.
Right? It's
And
me. You
yeah,
need to answer me.
yes, it's important. That's more important. No. But this is just our way how to communicate and have fun with each other. And yeah, this is something that really gave me a lot of peace. I really have a peace of mind because I know it always worked out.
Yeah.
Things always worked out for the good. If you're not a bad human, even if you don't believe,
Hmm.
that's up to you. I'm not a person who judges people because that's not on me to do.
Hmm.
And if you look back and you look at your timeline and you see how you came out of certain things, and sometimes you'd be like, how did this even happen? Like, how did I wind up myself in there and then I got out of it maybe with a blue eye or a little bruises or a
Hmm.
tap on a finger or something like that, and you were
Yeah.
like, we did some, I mean, we were young, we did some foolish stupid stuff and we got out of it, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I
Right.
understand now, but also like you need to learn how to find your purpose. And along all this, everything that I went through, all the skills that I was able to obtain, the knowledge, the education, it was for a higher purpose. And I didn't know my higher purpose until like maybe a year ago
Wow.
because I was still searching. I
Yeah.
was I was still doing marketing execution work, social media management, and I knew how to do it, but it was not, this feeling when you do stuff and you sit there and you be like, yeah, I can do this for you, and I enjoy and I love it, and I could do this all day. I didn't have that.
Mhm.
I knew how to do it. I could explain it to you and I will do it. Now I hired people to do that for me. If I have a client who's really like, hey, I really don't want to deal with it, I'm like, okay, I have people who really love doing that. They enjoy it. They
Yeah.
they geek out on things like that. But it's not me anymore. I'm more this whole strategy thing with my friend. She had put something in me. She placed a seed in me that had to grow over a period of time. And now where I really understand not only the technical aspect, the frameworks and all this, but like, where are you coming from? Where are you trying to go? And what do you actually need to do in order to get there? And like mindset wise, you need to, if you want your business to change, you want things to transform, it starts within you. You need to change first. You cannot change nothing if you don't change. And that's like a big thing, like just finding Christ. I had to change. I had to let go of things that I did in my past I couldn't do anymore. Let go of people in the past that I could not hang around anymore because it
Right.
was not giving me the peace, or like I wasn't feeling comfortable anymore. It's not that I hate the people or judge the people, but it just didn't work out anymore. You
Yeah.
know, it's still love and everything, but it's not giving anymore. And
Right.
you have to learn things. It's painful. It's
Hmm.
not always joyful, it's painful, but it's good because that's part of growing. And my mom always said, yeah, I grew pretty fast. I was like one of the tallest in my class, and it was hurting too. It's growing pains, but those are growing pains too. You grow, you evolve, and there's pain that comes within it. And that's something people really have to understand. You cannot be pity partying the whole time because things are not going your way. Yeah, things are not going your way. Ask yourself why. And it
Yeah.
usually starts with,
It's
and
so
that's the
true.
humble part. Yes.
Yeah. And I
So,
think so we're both business owners and we hear that in the business space frequently. But I think that it's also
yes.
so applicable to just regular life and people in any job. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
teacher by day, and I can
Yeah.
see where some of my colleagues could take some of this advice. And, we really do have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves some hard questions. And it is really hard to do that. Um, but again, in addition to that, like having a support system or having somebody who's able to kind of pinpoint those things for you is so beneficial because when you're in it, you can't always see. You get stuck in the muck and stuck in the weeds and so having that outside person to kind of, ask those tough questions for you or kind of guide you and help you through is like just gold. So,
Yeah, you're
um,
blind basically. You don't see. So this outside looking in perspective is very important. If you can have that by
mm,
friends, awesome. That's like a jackpot win. If you can't, hire a coach.
yeah.
Like even the coaches that we work with, they all have coaches.
Hmm.
All the people, successful people that I look up to have coaches. They
Right.
read books, they have coaches, they work on self-growth. Those are the most, if you get these things aligned, your business will grow as well because it will align with it. It flows together.
Hmm.
And for me, the most important thing that I learned is I serve the people and I please God. So I serve the people. I give you what you need because you have a problem.
Hmm.
I will have a solution for you. For this problem, we will solve this problem. But I know when one problem is solved, there's another problem out of a solution occurring again. So
Right.
it's re-evolving. So there's always something that is re-happening. But it is important for you to actually figure that out on yourself. There's nobody that can tell you what to do. If, I mean, you can have a coach and he will point you to it. If you're coachable, that's also a thing. But
Hmm.
if you're not, then pretty much stuck. And
Right.
that's really, really actually sad to see, and a waste of talent as well, because I see so many talented people out there. And I know the majority of my family are also teachers. So I see that with my sisters, they live in the US and they're teachers, and I speak to them frequently and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And if I hear them and I'm like, hey, why don't you try this and that? And they're like, that's actually very interesting. Now they're starting to do certain things with their students as well. They have middle and high schoolers. So
Mhm.
it's like very interesting to see, like, how do you guys structure for exams? How do you guys structure your learning? I'm
Yeah.
taking Scrum to schools. That's something that I find very interesting. This is a future project of mine, more like a nonprofit where I really take Scrum, this agile methodology, and I bring it into the schools. You have to learn it sooner or later anyway, because work
Yeah.
life will put you into project management in some form or fashion. So
Hmm.
why don't you start at school and
Right.
learn how to study with it, where you get
Mhm.
your stuff, done without being overwhelmed. I have my student son, he's 20, he's in the US studying for nursing. And I'm like, he was here for 3 months. I'm like, okay, my friend, we'll sit down. I'm gonna teach you something, and
Hmm.
you can apply that to your studying routine, and things are more smoother. It runs just a little bit more smoother if you stick to it. You need to have the discipline as well. So
Yeah.
that's the part where he's working. Be disciplined and sit down because he's seen it works. He
Yeah.
had his little evidence proof with his better grades going up. And I'm like, see, that's all you probably have to do. And then on the long term, you probably will work with this um, framework in some form or fashion.
Hmm.
So it's really quite interesting to see how you can adapt certain business aspects into normal life, let's say normal life routine, especially teaching in school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I want to start wrapping up. We kind of got off on some tangents, but this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And I just want to wrap up. I have two questions for you. So the first one is, so I'm still a pretty low tech gal, so I'm really curious, what is your favorite or what has made the biggest impact? Like which like techie AI
which
tool
tool?
you love?
Okay. So I would say Trello is
Ah,
my go-to tool, the project management tool. You can run your Kanban boards, your sprint boards on it. I use it for brain dump as well. So I have like a Kanban board, and then I have to do, doing, and done. And then I have a section in the front, it's called brain dump. So either I throw my voice recordings on there or my notes.
hmm,
It goes hand in hand with a whole bunch of different apps and tools that you're using. It's great, and you have it as an app on the phone, so it's easier on the go as well.
yeah.
And ChatGPT, that's basically my sparrings partner. Like, yeah, these are my BFFs
Yes.
in the business. I also try other things like ClickUp or yeah, the Google Calendar for sure. And I have a CRM tool to keep my company data, like all the clients and stuff. So it would be either something like HubSpot or what else do I have? Yeah, basically, I keep it on Trello as well. Yeah, HubSpot is like my go-to because you have the free version CRM tool. You can do a little bit marketing with it as well.
Okay.
And since there's competition around people, it's just evolving and it's easy to handle. Like I wanted something that I'm not so overly overpowered, like, that deep learning curve that you need in order to figure out the tool, how it works.
Hmm.
So I wanted something that's like intuitive. I can like see like let's say a comparison between an iPhone and a Google phone. My Google phone, I had to like really sit down with the instructions and figure it out. My
Hmm.
iPhone was just instantly, I understood where I need to look and what was going on. And that's how I feel with these two tools for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, I trained my ChatGPT so he knows my brand voice, my mission and vision. He knows the goals of the company. And I sit down with him. That's how I sit down with him. I sit down with my phone on my, so weird.
I do the same thing. I tell my husband, I'm like, I'm working with my
So
VA,
weird,
Chatty
but I do.
GPT.
Are telling me you're my VA, you're my strategic manager. I
Yeah.
give him a whole bunch of roles, and he jumps in, and you can even give him an accent. It's hilarious. Like,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
at some point, I started nerding out with it and sitting at. We had our child away for the weekend over a
Mhm.
friend's house because he wanted to have a sleepovers, and we were just sitting there nerding out with it, and it was really fun. And especially an aspect of also dealing with ADHD, I found having these tools are not to hinder you of doing work and being creative, but it allows you to stay creative because you can just dump things off your mind and focus on things that are important. And that's like a really, really important aspect for me. Because at the beginning, I'm going through the process now of being diagnosed. And for me, it was like, why am I so hyper focused on certain things and tiny tasks? I just can't get them done. I
Mhm.
forget stuff. I talk to my husband, and we have appointments. Now we have a Trello board and a calendar where we put our stuff in, and it
Mhm.
works. I don't have to how do you call it, like put everything in my brain and just like it's like an overload. You don't have that anymore.
Yep.
And I find that especially for for my females out here with ADHD running businesses, very important that you need to show a little bit more grace to yourself if you're dealing with it, and just use the tools to help you do what you do best. So if you're a creative, you're a writer, you want to write, you want to have this creativity, you want to have this flow.
Hmm.
You cannot be in a flow when you have all kind of stuff going on and you need to remember here, there. Start writing the stuff down. Put them in in a board. Have notifications on so you get your reminders. I have like for important stuff, I have 3 reminders prior,
Hmm.
starting 2 days prior, like for important appointments or so. And it just helps me because I know I have a system in the back that will tell me like an assistant, hey, 30 minutes, we need to go pick your kid up from swimming or something like that. You don't forget your kid at school and
Right.
all these kind of things. It sounds crazy, but for people with ADHD, if you're all over the place, you're running a business, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're also in your church, community, you're doing a lot of volunteer work, it piles up.
Hmm.
It's already a lot for a person who's not dealing with it, but let's say you're dealing with it, you need to have a routine. And for me, everything needs to be visual. I need to see that. I need to have like colors and I need to understand this color stands for private. This is business. This is a color for just me and my husband. Plant in date nights because we need to. Yeah, we need to meet. We need to have our time, but
Yeah.
we need to plan it because we're both busy. We're both dealing with ADHD. We're both going through it. So if one, you cannot rely on one to handle it because you will be disappointed. So we put it in the calendar. We really meet like on a 2 3 months base to plan out our date nights
Yeah.
and have a babysitter for the kid.
Hmm.
It's important,
It is.
so this is like something very, very important that I find there's not enough awareness yet. And I see more and more people are coming out, which sounds sad, but they're coming out with having it.
Yeah.
And truth be told, most of the successful people out there are dealing with it and they're coping with it in the same or similar way.
Well, and so many more women are now being diagnosed with ADHD because we were, the good, quiet kids in school. And so we were overlooked, but meanwhile, our brains were going 100 miles an hour. And so
Yeah.
I'm opening up about this too. Like, I feel like I'm hearing more and more about ADHD and the actual symptoms of the inattentive type. And I'm like, oh
Yes.
my God, yep, yep, yep. And so I'm
Daydream.
starting to wonder about myself. But
Yes, it's like you daydream or you drift off and you forgot what was the question again. You have these episodes, and for us females, we might not be like the class they call used to call them class clowns for running around in the classroom, being
yep.
silly, making noises, and being interruptive. I would say that's the new term for today.
Hmm.
And it's hard for a kid already knowing that something is not right with you, especially young girls going into teenage, you go into puberty, you go into a lot of stuff that will change not just physically but also mentally. That on top of that is not making it easy. So to this day I still wonder, like I look back and I have these old school reports from first grade all the way up to I graduated. My mom kept them for me. So I
Oh,
just recently went over them and I was like, because my doctor was like, yeah, for the diagnosis it would be helpful to have these things because back in the days our teachers were writing the report. They were like written sentences, no
mhm.
grades
Oh
until I
yeah.
think fifth grade elementary school. We only had written. So they were putting in was disruptive, was a daydreamer, was inattentive, certain things. It was not fast enough. Like it took her a long time to get things done or long time to understand certain things. And that was like indicators now for my doctor. We like, yep, it's been there. It's
Yeah.
just not developed while you was an adult. You already had it. And kudos to you that you had a support system around you that you still were able to actually have an academic degree and go through school without having majority of the girls don't have a degree or they go into lowers and start working retail or whatnot, and you stayed on track and you had a support system, so it's not something that you can take for granted. And I hope more and more people will understand, and maybe more and more teachers also in school. I see it in our school now. There's a lot of awareness going on, especially for females
Hmm.
starting in elementary. They're already looking and like, hey, can we get our psychologist to, scan, screen, and do a few checkups? There are different tests that are involved for females. So
Hmm.
because we don't have the same symptoms as the boys do.
Right.
And yeah, boys do tend to have it a lot more than females. So it's definitely a thing. And hopefully there will be a lot more research done to help these females, especially the young girls that still have an entire life in front of them, and
Yeah.
they don't have to go through experiences that are beyond horrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really hope.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more with all of that. Ugh. All right, Jenny. So I have one final question for you. So since this is the Positively Joyful Productivity Show, I would love to know
Yes.
what is one thing that you do for yourself that brings you joy?
One thing that I do for me that brings me joy, I sing.
You sing,
I
oh,
sing. Yeah, so I sing in church in our praise team, but I
okay.
sung before too, not on stage or anything because tend to be a more, they say, yeah, well, I say an introvert, but
Hmm.
I'm still a people person, but I would never consider myself being on stage singing for a living. Like
Right.
I couldn't, like, it's too much attention for me. And I do sing. I sing a lot at home. Praise and worship music turns on as soon as I wake up in the morning. That's how my child and my husband wake up when they get to
Mhm.
sleep in. Um, and I sing. I sing at work when I'm in my office, or I have music running and I sing along. And that's when I go into deep focus as well. And
Hmm.
that's when I like really can be creative. And or really shut down, like it's therapeutic. And combining singing with cooking is even better
Ah,
because
yeah.
I enjoy cooking. So that combination, you sing in the kitchen, you cook, my kid joins in because he enjoys music as well, so we start dancing, this whole scenery. Like
Oh,
this is
yeah.
something I really enjoy. Music, cooking, good food, and having good people around. Like this is I think it can't get any better. Like that can be anywhere on this planet, like
Mm.
really.
Ah, I
Yeah.
love that. Love that. Well, Jenny, this has been so fun listening to your story and chatting with you today. Thank you so, so much for being here. And
Thank you.
yeah. So if my listeners want to check you out, where can they go find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. It's I am Jennifer Brown.
Okay.
Together, written together. That's just you put it in LinkedIn as a link. You can find me on Instagram. It's Digital Garden Marketing as well. And other than that, I probably am on Facebook, also Digital Garden Marketing. Jenny Brown is currently my private profile that I have. So I'm building up a professional one because I see more and more professional things happening on Facebook, which I didn't expect, but we
Yeah.
learn. And I'm just creating a professional personal account for that as well to connect with people and yeah, share information, education, thoughts, give feedback if requested. So I'm really a care bear, what my people say, and I really love helping. And I really think that if you have a good strategy, a good plan with a coach, or if you are thinking you can do it on your own, which I don't recommend at the beginning because it can get really overwhelming.
Hmm.
To avoid to be overwhelmed, to avoid to be stressed out, to avoid all these negative aspects of running a business and really focus on what you really want to do, like your core work, then you don't have to touch base so many times, but you really have it mapped out on certain frequencies in the month or bi-monthly or however, and just get to working off your stuff. You check off the boxes what you need to check off. Focus on small tasks. We call them work in progress. We don't do more than 1 to 2 per day
Hmm.
to keep it in it, because 1 to 2 you are able to achieve. And I feel like when you achieve something, even if it's little steps, it gives you that good feeling that you accomplished something rather than having these 5 task and you maybe just did 2 or 3 and you got these 2 left, you will always be thinking about the 2 left ones and not 3 accomplished. That's just how we are programmed in our minds. So
Yes.
to limit it, cut it down, take it slow, take a step back, reflect, and really be open to consider coaching. Consider somebody that can give you feedback on a constructive level where you can grow. Read books.
Mhm.
It's really a game changer. It really helps educate yourself. Read books that people are reading that are already there where you want to be, like Be Do Have. That's really a mantra that I go about, and it helps a lot.
I love that. All right, Jenny, thank you so much. So, to my listeners, if you want to check out Jenny, the LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram will be linked in the show notes below. So, go check her out, give her some love. And thank you so much for tuning in today. Everyone, have a great week.